Back in the lab with my boy here, Brandon Fortino. We're over here starting, and so sharing here with Brandon some of the things that we were talking about and some of the epiphanies that some of the students had. Mentees. I wouldn't even call them students, mentees, because we're all sharing.
I love that.
And yeah, it was a pretty fun day.
I love it.
It'd be around the next one, bro.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's once every month, you said, right?
Every 2 weeks.
Oh, every 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
it's going to be
Yeah.
one. Okay.
Yeah, so what I'm basically going to try and do is every 2 weeks I have a cohort, a group that we're walking them through the process from how to even start beginning to do an investment or have a strategy in order to make their life goal or what their vision of a life goal is to sustain themselves.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is.
So my question to that is, why not try to impact as many people as possible?
You know, that's a great question, bro. Somebody posed that to me one day. And Quest, I'm going to have you on because this is all about the people in my life that have influenced me in positive ways. My boy had a very tough life growing up, and we sat down for lunch one day. It's maybe about 4 years ago. We had just started. No, I hadn't started 80 Geeks yet. So we hadn't started the other construction company yet. And he was just telling me like, hey, he was actually my personal trainer.
No way.
So we used to train super hard, get up, meet him at 5 o'clock in the morning. We'd train for a couple hours. And during our training sessions, we would chat. And one of the questions he would ask me is like, hey, bro, I know you're in real estate. I really want to do some investments. What, can you help me get that thing started? And I was like, bro, let me show you a little something. And I was talking about like ADUs and improving on properties and how you create the cash flow on the property. So we met at this chicken spot down the street pretty close to here. They had like chicken and waffles. Is that, I forget, Sidecar. I forget the place. It's called Dope. They closed it down. But so we're having this conversation. And as I explained to him the concepts and the workflow, this is what you just gave me $100,000 idea right now. I'm like, oh, I know. And I'm eating my chicken. He goes, you need to do this to like 10,000 people, bro.
Mm-hmm.
I was all, yeah, I guess that would be nice. I just could not envision myself standing in front of 10,000 people to like lay this whole process out, right? It's not for my generation, I guess you can say. I'm used to being in front of like small groups, agents, investors, workshops, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, after that moment, that concept stuck in my head to this point now, where it took me, my internal, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just the dwelling on the idea to get to this point to say, yeah, you know what? You're right, dude. 10,000 people do need to know this shit because the world would change.
Yeah.
Like it would literally change.
I think so.
Yeah. And you and I have just had this discussion. It's hard for the world to make a shift like this because we're so sedated as a civilization. We're busy with stuff. Just we know what we want at the end of the day, and we're thrown these little nuggets of information on how to get there. Put money in a 401k or flip cars, get an Uber job, like all these little paths, or hey, pay for my coaching program and you can make millions of dollars and you can be like me driving a Ferrari, right? And all these people spend a ton of money, but the percentage of success within those groups, I'd be willing to bet if it's maybe 1% to 3% of the total amount of cohorts that go through it, right? And when I did a training program with loan officers and teaching them from the business from scratch, getting them licensed, I think it was started with maybe 10, 12 guys. And I want to say to this day, and that was 12 years ago, to this day, more than 50% of them are still actively in our business, and not just in the business, but in the business thriving.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way we trained them back then was as if I was in their shoes, walking them through infancy of the process.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to give a lot of props to my boy Jocko. He was my boss for. You guys all see Jocko Wilnick online, the Navy SEAL dude. Believe it or not, he was actually a mortgage banker before he got into that. And if he's going to shoot me in the face, I'm sorry, bro. But, you know, he was our ops guy. But one of the beautiful things about him was when he got out of the teams in 2009, 10, he was in charge of all West Coast training for the team guys. And so we kind of took the military aspect of what it takes for them to train, like the SEALs and the military kind of like compartmentalized approach, and applied it to mortgage banking. So that is why when you and I have this conversation, I believe in the chronological order of events. It's an evolution. Doesn't matter your background, doesn't matter if you're big, small, poor, rich, black, white, Asian, Filipino. At the end of the day, those people that follow the evolution of the process were the ones that made it.
Right. I love that. And that's it. It's like plug and play. You know what I mean?
That was it.
Yeah. That's interesting because like the reason why I asked you that question was I was not researching, just kind of like just looking around, you know, the internet. We watch all YouTube all the time, right?
Yeah.
And I came across this very interesting statistic that I think the millennial generation and younger didn't really survey a bunch of Gen Z or Gen Alphas, but their confidence in things such as owning a home or being able to make ends meet when in regards to the income that they make and the rising cost of everything. And say like all these other stuff that they surveyed them on, a lot of questions in regards to their own economic health. A lot of these people that went on the survey have low confidence or no confidence at all in things like them being able to own a home, them being able to
the
make
American dream.
Yeah, exactly. That was kind of like what the title of that survey is like. Oh, is the American dream going away? Right. And I think these information are just one of those things that you said. Right now, there's so many noise out there, right? Like there's so many noise of people trying to push products, services, coaching programs. You know, rightfully so. Some people want to make their money, right? But yeah, that's the reason why I asked that question. It's like, why not go bigger and kind of like think about the kind of impact that you can make on these people? Because
that's a really good question. So, you know, before I started even doing the podcast, to get into it, number one is getting comfortable in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Right. I'm used to speaking in front of people, but getting in front of the camera, number one. Number two was also doing a lot of meditation. I mean, I swear to God, doing a lot of meditation and asking myself these questions and really taking the ego out of the equation. And what I mean by taking the ego out of the equation is recognizing at certain points that I'm responsible for my outcomes, good, bad, or otherwise. And many times, you know, through the process, there is a bit of luck, right? There is a bit of hard work. There is a bit of preparation. There's also another bit of desire. There's also another bit of sacrifice, right? And those are all kind of key ingredients to get you to the very end. Where our desired goal is, which is another piece. Do you know what that vision even looks like? Could you really define it? And so now, especially I read a lot, and there's a saying that comes up often in many books where back in Rome, the Roman citizens were just as asleep as they were today. And they would say, give them circus beer and wine, or give them bread and wine, and they would stay sedated. They would never be any wiser because they're happy. They're being entertained, right? And if you think about that, like the root word of entertain is really just to keep you distracted. And so as humans, we wake up every day as Groundhog's Day. You know, whether you're a post office worker, you get up, drop off your kids at school, boom, you show up to work. Now you're doing your day job. Finish your day job, you get home, you're super tired. The first thing you do is you crack a couple beers. And then you're like, oh yeah, but I want to try and get into this investment thing. I know I got to do it. And then you got to do your laundry. And then your wife's like, do something else. And all this life gets in the way. And so nobody takes the time to really compartmentalize the action steps. And if they start compartmentalizing the action steps, then it makes it more bite-sized, right? And I think that's where a lot of the mistakes start happening, because if you're being bombarded as citizens today with all this outside white noise, you got a coworker that's giving you advice. You're like, hey, I'm thinking about buying real estate. He's telling you his story. Then you mentioned to somebody else, and he's telling you how he got foreclosed on. And somebody else is like, oh yeah, prepayment penalties. You got all this stuff, but yet we're not tuning into like a very fine-tuned frequency where we're just getting like a direct download of an executable action step. And so we do have a society of information overload, right? You compound that with a parental generation, and the parental generation has no plan.
What do you mean by that?
So most families don't have, well, you have a cohort of families that never even owned, right? You have a cohort of families that have owned but have lost. Now you have another cohort of families that have owned and they're still owning it. Then those that have maybe moved up to another property, those that maybe have bought a first investment, right? So there's so many different echelons of the process, but they're doing it many times. I say like driving by braille. You know what I mean? Like, you've ever been drunk and you like hit that speed bump and you're like just trying to stay? Not that I've ever been drunk like that, but like, you're just trying to stay in your lane, and they're just kind of like feeling their way along, and luckily they make it home, right? For some people, it's kind of like what happened to them. I bought my first condo, then you were born, we needed a bigger place. My brother decided to rent it out from me, so I rented it to him. He made the payments. You see what I'm kind of getting at? It just kind of happened to fall in place by happenstance. So if your parents are trying to teach you how this process goes along, how can they? It's like me being a parent having 2 kids and then assuming I'm a pediatrician.
Yeah.
It's not my thing.
Yeah.
However, if you were to take a step back, like myself, just being in the business for so long, and recognize, wow, I have all these key influence players that facilitate transactions, and they're all pieces of a puzzle. And if we were to break down the rules of the game, Monopoly is a great one. Monopoly is probably one of the best games you can play with your family, not just because of the rules of the game, but because of the strategy.
Tell me more about that.
So, if you ever play Monopoly, many times, especially as a kid, you'd want to be the kid that owns Boardwalk and Park Place.
Yeah.
Right? So the one time you lose is because you bought Boardwalk and Park Place super early. Right? Because then everybody else is buying all the cheaper stuff along the way, and you happen to keep landing in their place and paying rent, and then you land in the next one, you pay more rent, and then you're like, damn, and then nobody's landing in my Boardwalk and Park Place because you did it too soon. So then you lose that game. Okay. Mental note: don't buy the expensive, fancy stuff first. Let me get Marvin's Gardens in Illinois, or you know what? I'm going to start I'm going to buy Baltimore. I'm going to buy the cheap stuff, right? Ohio.
Yeah.
And then people land there and you're like, $6, $8, and you're getting like nickeled and dimed the whole time. In the meantime, the guys that are landing in the other spots are they're winning the game, right? So Monopoly in itself, just because of the way you play it, and before we started our recording today, I was telling you about after action reviews in the military. So after action reviews, what went right, what went wrong, what should we sustain, right? And so as a parent, if you play Monopoly with your kids, and I know this might be a little hard because you just finished playing a game and you're going to philosophize with them, but maybe if they're teenagers or young adults, what would you have done different in that last game to maybe have won it? What would you have done in that last game different? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, a little humility. I wouldn't have bought Boardwalk and Park Place. Because, man, when I did that, I ran out of cash.
Yeah.
Or maybe something else. And whatever it is, right? And sometimes it's bad luck. You get hit go to jail.
Mm-hmm.
You go to bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Shit happens, right? That's life. But the reality is, especially as parents, is telling your kid, hey, listen, that stuff happens, but guess what? You're still breathing. You're still alive. There's still more fighting you. Let's get back in the game. Let's play the game again the next time and play to win. And now you start teaching your kids how to do something purposeful. So that's why I think Monopoly is a really good game, not necessarily just because of the strategic gameplay, but because I think as parents having the opportunity to teach our kids, a little strategy, a little foresight. That's all. But if you're a parent that has never played the game, you have to have a little humility and be a student. Because how are you going to break a generational problem or vision that you may have? Everybody always has like this thing with their children that, well, I graduated high school. I want my kids to graduate college, and then they graduate college, and I want to be the first one in my family to buy my first house. We closed a transaction last month for a husband and wife. They had a baby on the way, and she was the first person in her family, and I want to say it was like 7, and including all of her parents, aunts, and uncles, she was the first person in her entire family to own a home.
Wow. Talking about breaking generational curse, right?
But it was awesome. It was awesome working with them because, she had a specific type of tenacity.
Yeah.
When we talk about like stepping on the scale, like day one, her credit wasn't the greatest. But she recognized that and acknowledged that and said, okay, what are the action steps I need to take in order to get my scores fixed? What do I need to fix my credit? Sure enough, 6 months later, hey, all right, I got this done. I got this done. How does it look now? Cool. Wow, congratulations. It looks a lot better. Let's take a look. You see what I'm saying? So it was really that mental shift for her to say, I'm going to swallow my pride. I don't know everything, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make my vision happen. And I'm going to be the first person in my family to own a home. And we had a time constraint because she was pregnant.
Yeah. That's powerful.
Everybody has that in them.
Yeah.
It's really just a choice.
It's like everybody just needs to do the things that needs to be done.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And knowing which things to be done is the first step.
Yeah, and that's like part of the mentorship that we're starting with is because of with recognizing that there is all this noise. It's like, okay, I know I want to buy a house, but what are the key action steps that I need to have in place in order for that to happen? And then it's a matter of expectations. That's why with some of these people, when I had them go home, I said, I need you to talk to your spouses. One of the guys, he was asking me about converting his garage into an ADU or another rental. And he's like, my wife's like, absolutely not. And I said, well, let me frame it to you a different way. I go, is your wife working? He's like, oh yeah, she works. And what does she do? He's like, oh, she works part-time. I said, what if I was to tell you that the rental cash flow on that specific property, your wife could quit her job? Would it be worth it to her? He's like, well, that would be crazy. And I'm like, what's that 450 square feet? What's that rent for? And he lives like in UTC. I'm like, oh, bro, easy. That's $2,000 a month right there. Even if I drew a line of credit, pull money out, spent the money, debt service, did the whole 9, you're still going to walk away with $1,500. What does your wife make on part-time after taxes? Pretty close to $1,500. So now, rather than looking at the loss of the garage use, right, or having the lack of privacy because now you have this new tenant, you now just picked up time.
Because you can't take back time.
You can't take back time.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, man. Oh, yeah. We're from Peru. She probably take care of my grandkids. Yeah. Like I can see him lighting up over it. So the reality is, in a lot of these, these like the mentorship sections that we're kind of drilling down with, is just really changing their perspective on things. And his wife wasn't seeing the vision as he was seeing it because his vision was one thing. She couldn't see it yet. By reframing the vision and the opportunity that it created and how to present it to her, made him super excited. He was even spending in his mind where she'd be spending her time.
Right. What would she be doing?
Yeah, taking care of the grandkids. right? She wouldn't have to be working that extra part-time job. He's like, we're not wealthy, but we do okay. Like, he's like, but that's why she gets to work part-time, because she doesn't want to just stay home. Okay, cool. But do you see how just a shift in perspective can make all the difference in the world?
Yeah.
And unless individuals really take the time and pause and ask those really deep questions on themselves, it's difficult in our society. And I admit that. We're distracted by so many things. Our cell phones are fighting for our attention all day long. I have friends that complain about not having retirement funds or how hard life is, but can tell me the scores of football teams for like the last 5 years, bro. Stats, player. I couldn't tell you the player because they don't pay my check. I don't get any internal contribution. I get no revenue, nothing from a damn football team, bro.
That's how I feel too. Yeah.
But, I had to have that epiphany, though, a good 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? But some people, they can't let that go because that's part of their identity. Well, you're going to have to let that go if you want to change your identity, if you want to change your life cycle.
Would you say that's like similar to when you define it as sedated?
Yeah. 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 Interesting when you think about it like that, all right?
Yeah.
It's hard.
Perspective.
It's just another perspective. I don't know everything.
Right.
What I had to accept and responsibility was not only going through the things that I had to go through and the personal setbacks that I had to go through to start using my elbows and start doing this, right? Too much of our world is doing this, right? They have all the answers. Until I started doing this, it was my responsibility. The information's on YouTube. It's up to me to make the time to go look, read, the mistake that I made. What did I miss? Why did I miss it? What can I do to fix that? Right?
Yeah.
That's when things start changing. Looking internal versus looking external.
Damn, that's fire.
I'm not a guru or nothing, bro.
Yeah.
It's just.
It's wisdom.
But people are motivated in life by pleasure or pain.
Right.
At some point, you have to take extreme responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
At some point. You can be born in the hood. You can be raised by a single mom. You can be an adopted kid raised in a horrible house. And I'm telling you right now, I've met people who have been adopted in abusive homes that are very successful today at what they do because they realize in life at some point, if it's meant to be, it is up to me.
I love that.
That's it.
If it's meant to be,
it is up to me. And that's just taking ownership.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how bad do you want the pain to be before you accept that.
Such a great conversation to have on January, beginning of the year.
It's just coffee time with that.
Yeah. So what's your year looking like this year? What do you want to happen? What do you envision your year to look like?
For me, I have a very defined vision now on a lot of facets within my life. Number one, the compound effect of my personal being. So when I got in a car accident a couple years ago, this is the second time I hurt my back. First time I hurt my back, I crushed like 3 discs. I got in a car accident, stopped going to the gym, stopped working out. I started to see how that started affecting me. Gained weight, started snoring. That snoring affects my wife's sleep. My wife's sleep makes her irritated, wake up. You get conflict, right? All sourcing back to eating healthy, working out. So for me, if I want to make my relationship with my wife better than I ever want it to be, it even starts the day before of being a better, healthy version of me, right? It's a compound effect. Mm-hmm. So those are the things, that's one of the things for me dedicated for this year that I've really made a conscious effort to make a shift for. And it sucks waking up in the morning and having your hands feel numb. You know what I mean? God forbid you never hurt your back. My buddy Tony that comes in, he used to be a professional wrestler, jacked his back. And we talk about that. He's like, oh my, bro, that feeling sucks. The second one is I'm looking to build multi-unit properties. And in my build of my multi-unit properties, I also want it to be as multiple compounding a benefit as possible, not just to me for the cash flow, revenue, net worth. That's great. It's actually a byproduct of it. Through the processes and going through my network, a percentage of the buildings are going to be rented out to disabled veterans that have there's specific programs for them to have housing, because in order for us to get to waivers that we're going to be building on these properties, they have to have a certain percentage that are low income housing. In that low income, we are able to provide an additional service for disabled veterans. Well, not only will it house them, but will also provide them medical services. So that's another way for me to also participate in what I want to do. And also my heart's always been military. So my way to give back in that aspect. So really melding those two together. And that's really been forming now, and getting the team together to execute on these builds. Another one is within my profession of lending. I've been in the business for so long. I've managed, I've led, done so many different aspects. You kind of get tired at some point and say, you know what, I want to go back to my roots and just produce for my clients, just produce for my consumers, just produce for my agent partners. And it gave me a new, oh my God, it's kind of hard to even quantify. It gave me a new level of excitement. And I'll kind of like sidetrack for just a second. When my daughter was born, she's going to be 17 in a couple months. When my daughter was born, I was in the business maybe 3 or 4 years. And it sucked because I was grinding so hard, getting cell phone calls as I'm like, my wife's in labor, and I'm kind of like still almost like texting people back because my business wasn't stopping, and I didn't know how to run it the right way back then. Anyhow, during that whole labor phase, by the time my daughter was born, it was deep into the night. Doctor comes in, delivers my daughter, literally just hands her to me, right? And I'm like, oh shit. Like, it wasn't even, no congratulations, no shaking hand. Like, I'm waiting for like the stork and cigars and all this shit, right? And I go, oh my God, I never want my clients to feel this. That it's just transactional. This feels like crap. I love the fact that I have my daughter there, but the expectations of like fireworks going off because this momentous event for me, and we waited to have my daughter. We were married for 7 years before we had her. So it was very purposeful, right? That was like the fuel and the way I wanted to operate my business. Over time, as you get into management, leadership, and whatnot, that kind of gets dull and it gets a little old. Getting back to that way that felt, getting back to being able to work with clients and be the guy delivering the new baby and enjoying the experience on that person's face, getting the keys, being the first person in their family to buy a home, right? Because if you really, really take a step back, there's a lot of small moments in life where people made a huge influence that we don't necessarily acknowledge that changes the course of their life, right? And just recognizing that I get the opportunity to be one role in that experience for someone, right? Mm-hmm. Knowing that, man, that started really feeling good. So now in my personal business, with my agent partners, with the things that I do, they see now how much more excited I am to come to work. I don't come to work, I come to play. Mm-hmm. So that's another one for 24 that's really shifting for me, is focusing more on pouring into the business. Being a dad, mm-hmm. very important for me. Really connecting with my kids on a very much more deeper level, starting the podcast. It's really for them. So should I die tomorrow, this is something that I want to leave for them to know this is my dad. It's not about all the things I told them. These are all the people in my life that influence me. And that's why I'm telling you this, because I learned from that guy, I learned from this guy, and I meet so many walks of life in this industry that I just want to kind of introduce them to where some of these isms comes from. And so, and building on that this year. So that's about my first 4 big things. And being a better husband. And that means taking a lot more responsibility, and not allowing little things to aggravate us, dumb things. And I enjoy making my wife breakfast on Saturdays, and making her coffee the way she likes it. And, those little moments, because at some point you never know. The people you love the most may die. You just don't know. So really, grounding myself and get connected much better as a husband. So that's it.
Awesome. I got like a little deep there. That's good. That's awesome, man.
Meditation.
Yeah.
Meditation.
That.
If you can visualize what your life would be like, it's just a matter of you getting out of your own way and doing what you need to do. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what do you do during these meditation sessions?
Great question. So, you guys may not know, but I've told you, I'm a shooter. I shoot long range. I shoot pistol, CQB. I have cool friends. We do fun stuff. But one thing I learned a long time ago in the military, in the Army, it's a 5x5 method. Inhale for 5 seconds. Hold it for 5 seconds. Exhale for 5 seconds. Hold it for 5 seconds. Repeat. Right? Get to the point where you can hear your heartbeat. Turn everything off. Just hear your heartbeat. And if you can master that when chaos is happening, you can do it anywhere. You can do it on a bus. Legit, if you can do this, you can meditate on a busy, Times Square. You just drop into it. It's not that hard. But now, number one, I start with give myself grace. I don't have all the answers. You made mistakes. What are the things right now that you need to improve on? What are the things right now that are most important? What are the gaps? Let's rewind the clock. In my mind's eye, let's rewind the clock. What are some things that you could have done different right now? And as I've been really recently doing this, what I've been finding is social media is such a distraction, bro. It's such a distraction. We find the need of having to scroll, looking at all the news, getting us trapped into all this drama. And the narcissism in it of having to sit there and post yourself because you have to post yourself. Because if you don't do it, people won't see you. If they don't see you, then you're going to get forgotten. All that shit. I hate it. I know it's a necessary evil and I don't like to do it, but I find myself trapped into that. So I really want to make much more conscious decision of what I want to allow of that in my life, So those are the kind of things that I go through in my little meditations. I'll think about a problem or something that I got going on. Just sit in my chair at my desk, just close your eyes, just give yourself a couple minutes and just start thinking. Go deep.
Yeah. Love it. Need to try that.
It's pretty fun. I enjoy it.
For sure. I'll try that 5x5. That's really good.
Yeah. 5x5 is great.
That's a good way to put it. Easy to remember.
Yeah. Well, we're dumb, dude. When we do that kind of stuff, you're just a regular Joe. You know what I mean? You're just, okay, we're going to meditate. All right. How do you do that? That was nice.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's awesome.
All right,
man.
do some burpees. But it's all good though,
Yeah.
It's just a simple skill set. Anybody can do it. And like anything else in life, the more times you do it, the easier it gets.
Right. Yeah.
Do you ever meditate?
I used to in the past. I haven't gotten that rhythm, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And in the past, I mean 2 years ago, I was I don't know why I'm doing this for type of thing. But looking back into it now, I would definitely do it, kind of to gain that clarity, to envision. I think as a daily practice, I think it's great. I mean, I journal pretty much every day.
Yeah.
There are things that I'm how I'm doing, what I'm grateful for, what is I'm trying to achieve today or this week or this month. So
journaling is a form of meditation. It is. It's really, so there's two ways to think of it. One is to clear the mind. I want to just be with myself
Yeah.
and be in empty space, right?
Right.
That's great. You're aligning your chakras, right? Another form of meditation is a release. I've done this with my daughter. You go lay on the beach, take your shoes off, put your feet towards the water, and as you lay down, you imagine that you have like a golden ring around the bottom of your feet, like just like a golden halo. In this golden halo, think of it as like a filter, okay? It's going to come from your feet, and you're going to move that thing up your body, and you're going to push any bad energy you have out the crown of your head. You're going to start with your feet, and you're going to kind of feel it. And in your mind's eye, you're going to be like, all right, it's moving, it's moving, it's moving, it's moving. Push, I release it. I release it. Now, I know this little, hocus pocus mumbo jumbo, but to me, the ocean represents energy, free, natural energy. You're grounding yourself right there in the sand. You're with Mother Earth. You're with salt water, right? Put a battery in salt water and see what happens. You're grounded. Now, in your mind, you take that energy and you pull it through your body and you start releasing it. And you just remember to keep breathing and just keep breathing and just keep pulling it and just do it for a couple minutes, just a couple minutes, and just keep doing it and just see how you feel. And when I did it with my daughter, we were going through this exercise, and
how old is your daughter?
We did that the first time. She may be like 14 when we did it at the time. I turned over to her, and I'm seeing tears just come down her sides of her eyes, right? And I don't know what she's thinking, and I'm not here as I'm there as, I'm her father, I'm her mentor, I'm her friend, right? And I'm seeing her, I'm like, none of your business, Aunt. Whatever she's feeling, she's feeling. Go through it. And after we're done, we get up and we're walking back to the car. And I'm like, hey, baby, how'd you feel? And my initial reaction, because I was kind of excited, right? I'm like, it feels like you got fresh batteries, huh? She's, no, Dad. I'm like, what? She's like, I feel like I have new ones. Right. That's right. Cool. Now you know, baby, when you feel like you have hard times or you feel like just shit's so hard, we'll come here, spend 20 minutes, doesn't take a lot, clear your body of that crappy energy. That's all it is, right?
Yeah.
So that's a different form of meditation, is clearing the crap out.
Right.
The one I love to do is get cerebral. Is really start asking questions. And the number one rule is take your ego out of it. Take ownership of everything. And start analyzing, what's the gap? What am I missing? If I can do this all over again, what could I do different? What did I miss? What did I miss? What details did I miss? And some people can get stuck in paralysis analysis. Right? But if you just stop and you really look, at some point, I'm guaranteeing you this, at some point, you're going to reflect it back to yourself. And then give yourself grace. Damn it, I missed that. It's all good, bro. It's all good. Now you know better. Now you have a life lesson. Do what you can to fix it. Drive on, yeah? And so now you're speaking to yourself in third person.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine you start building a relationship with yourself as if you're your own best friend.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate in our lives that we're always giving friends really good advice.
Right.
But we're never talking to ourselves to give ourselves good advice. And trust me, I am not a perfect person.
Right.
Right. And I have a ton of flaws. My wife can tell you all about them. Right. But this morning, I'll give you an example. Somehow, I don't know how this happened and evolved. My countertop on a specific corner of the countertop ended up becoming like a trash pile, but like the big trash pile. So you know how you come home and you get like a box of chips and like, you're like, I don't want to go outside. It's cold right now. I'm just going to put the box of chips right here. I'll take it out in the morning. Then later on, it like a cereal box is in there. And then like a jug of milk goes in there because it's like the big stuff that you don't want to put in the trash cans inside.
Yeah.
So now you got this like stack of trash. And then I'm over here cooking breakfast, and I'm like, oh, I'm really busy, and I grab the egg and I throw the eggs in there, and you know what I mean? Like all of a sudden that just became the new trash bin, right? Anyhow, wife went to go take it out, like, oh, trash, and boom, stuff fell out. Obviously agitated at Anthony. And hey, we can't keep doing the trash here. Got it. Yeah, you know what? You're right. You're right. Now nobody puts trash there. Me, you, anyone, nobody. Oh no, but it was okay to do that because it was big stuff, but because it was your eggs. No, you're right. I shouldn't have I got too comfortable with it and it put eggs there. But at the same time now, I'm like, wow, I agitated her. Rather than my wife saying, man, she has a short fuse. Yeah, you're right. I put eggs in there of all things, and it could have stunk. Who knows? Whatever. I was being lazy. I acknowledge that. Right? Cool. Everything settled. Comes, meet me for lunch, drops off my things. Kiss her. Hey, babe, you know what? It's not worth it. Like, I'm sorry. Drive on. I can see the look in her face go from like, oh, this guy irritated me today, to being like, bye, babe. All because of what? Taking the responsibility that I was just being lazy at that moment. We're all human, right?
Right.
So I think that's where sometimes the meditation kind of comes to, is it makes you be much more comfortable of taking personal responsibility when you start pointing at yourself on how could I fix these things. And it's unfortunate now at the age at which I'm at, start thinking this way versus when I was 25 or when I was 20 or 15, right? But I see it a lot now with, especially with entrepreneurs and older entrepreneurs, when we start having conversations. I know, bro, right? Oh, dude. I'm like, why? Well, because I don't think our parents taught us these things. We went from a household 80 years ago where you had only one breadwinner that maybe worked 40 hours a week and a stay-home mom, to now having two parents working, to not only having now two parents working, but having social media raising our kids. Right? So a lot of that I think as a society we've gotten away from. And giving everybody trophies in the 90s was probably one of the worst things we ever did.
What do you mean?
It's important for us to recognize that even our setbacks are wins, because those are areas of improvement.
I like that. Even our setbacks are wins.
Yeah.
I have this belief that's like there's no such thing as failure. It's just learning. It's feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you ready to do some part 2?
Yeah.
This is our Friday
Friday chat. What is
Friday
it?
deep downs.
Yeah, we should have a name for this. We haven't come up with a name for it. Huh?
Yeah. So the awesome thing is Brandon comes in on our Fridays, and we do I do an extra deep 10,000-foot view on some pretty deep stuff with him.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sure we do some crazy things, and sometimes we walk away. I'm like, man, we should have put that on film.
But now we do.
now we're making a commitment to do that. You know,
exactly.
I look at him as like my 25-year-old version of myself right now. So that's how I enjoy it.
Appreciate it.
No, my pleasure, bro. It's fun. What other question you got for me?
Man,
it's supposed to be my podcast. I'm supposed to be asking you questions.
Yeah. I know, right? It's all right. It's all good. So I'm here. This is the content that we're getting. So
well, I'm excited. I really want to get this this new evolution going with trying to put these bullet point action steps. You know, there's a lot of good coaching out there. There's a lot of good guys that talk about real estate and different things. This is definitely going to be from a completely different angle. So I'm pulling from all my resources of all the mentors you guys see, and hopefully we have something that's going to be very special. So
let's get it. I'm excited for this year, man.
Yeah,
let's get it.
Yeah, awesome, brother.
Let's get it.
Get it.